Okay. So the pasuk opens up. Ran nokin say my own bracha klala. So there's a stira in the pasuk. Ray is lashon yachid, and it goes on. Nochi no sein lifnechem. Put before you plural. Should have said ru'u anochi no sein lifnechem, or alternatively re'ei anochi no sein lifanecha. So the Ray is blushing Yachid, but who's the people he's speaking to tell them to see, right? Is plural, right? Right. That's kasha number one, right? Kasha number two, right? Is there's nothing to see. Right? The bracha. These are ideas. Esa bracha sher tishmu es mitzvos Hashem okecha shenochi mitzvah eschem. V'kloim lo tishmu mitzvos Hashem okecha v'sartu dechad ozem lachad achre elhim acher mashelo yidatem. Right? I'm giving you the bracha klal. What does a bracha and klal look like?
I looked all over for the Mefarshim on Thursday about this. Couldn't find anybody even being medayek such a thing. It's amazing.
There's nothing to see.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing to see. And there's a tzivui, this bracha that I'm, as it were, showing you, that there's nothing to see. These are ideas. Right? Put them on Har Grizim and Har Evo. Right? So there's which after said the Indian of that they had to afterwards do as is more detailed in Parshas Kisavai. This when they came to Eretzrov, have some of the Shvatim and Har Grizim, some Ariva, and then the the brachas and the klalos. After understand the Indian of that. But right now, more importantly, there's like seemingly nothing to see. These are ideas. Ideas are invisible, right? So. Right. Now, another thing, we didn't point this out on Shabbos, but the literal reading of the pasuk Esa bracha asher tishmu al mitzvos Hashem elkeichem v'koim lo tishmu al mitzvos Hashem elkeichem. Now you could read the pasuk. You can read the pasuk as if the bracha is keeping the mitzvahs and the klala is to disobey the mitzvahs. Now Rashi doesn't learn that way. Rashi says a bracha al minas asher tishmu means the bracha and the shmiras mitzvahs two entities. You get the bracha, right?
The Rav means cause and effect, or
al minas asher tishmu, right? Al minas asher tishmu, right? So the pasuk is speaking b'lashon kotzer. Right? Is that it really? Is two? There's as it were two entities. That's right, and they would have a cause and effect relationship. That's what I say. It's al menas.
Right.
But one could read the pasuk straight. Et habracha asher tishmu el mitzvos Hashem okechem. The bracha that the bracha is. Right. Listening to the mitzvah and the klala im lo tishmu, which is the way seemingly Unklus translates. Right? Literally. Rashi adds the words al minas asher tishmu. Right? Right. The is pretty much it could be said that this parsha is the parsha of Eretz Yisrael, right? The Hamak Mashiach Harashem is something that comes up over and over and over again, and it's all the halachas that are totally in Makom HaMikdash, right? Be it the going up for the regalim, be it you have to bring there your maestras and you have to do your kachim there, right? Right. So even the the halacha of abe tabris kol makom sa'ele, right, and iran idachas, these are halachas for Eretz Yisrael, right? There's a special chumash in Eretz Yisrael, about this halacha b'yar nidachas, and also about destroying, actively seeking out destroying avodah zara. It's a special halacha in Eretz Yisrael. Right, except that the odd thing out, right, is the halachas of kashrus. Right, everything else is kimad halachas that are specific to Eretz Yisrael, by and large, bigadol. Right, but the clear exception is the halachas of kashrus that are here. Okay. So if you take a look, you see that really Parshas Re'eh is koilo in it two halves of a sugya. Then Sefer Vayikra is spread over two parshas. There's Parshas Shmini and there's Parshas Achrei Mos, which are really two halves of a whole. And we spoke about this in the Shurim on Sefer Vayikra. It's really two halves of a whole. I mean, obviously, even just that on Parshas Shmini, Nadav Avihu were consumed, and Parshas Achrei Mos, Shnei Bnei Aaron. But the sugyas in these two parshas are very related. Right? Right, and both these sugyas are combined in this week's parsha. Right, because in Parshas Shmini is the laws of kashrus. Right? No, that's the sugya after the major sugya after the story of what happened on Yom HaShmini and Nadav Avihu is all the laws of kashrus. In Parshas Achrei Mos, right, after it talks Achrei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron because of Hashem, right? Bezos Yavo Aaron al Kodesh, that they went in, Shelo Bershus, but there's a way to go in Bershus, and that's the Avodas Yom Kippurim, and that's why it's Achrei Mos Shnei Aaron, because they went in without Rishus. But Bezos Yavo al Kodesh, there's a seder of how to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, right? So the as it were Avodas Yom Kippur is to do it right, what Nadav Avihu did wrong. The shtims, with the shita that they went lifnai v'lifnim. It's a machlokes, but it would seem that that's the, Akash warns of al yav b'chos Akash because that's what it's Achrei Mos Shnei because that's what Nadav Avihu did, and bezos yavarim Akash. And what's the sugya after that? The sugya after that is the sugya of shchutei chutz, because right, in the Dora Midbar lo mibaya, obviously once the Mishkan was built, that's where you do your korban, right? But it was not hutar basar tava, right? If a person wanted to eat a shor keves va'ez, he had to eat it as shlamim. That was a special halacha for the Dora Midbar, as is all mefurish over there in Parshas Achrei Mos. Right? Right, and then after that is the Parsha of Arais. Right? And in our Parsha also is the Parsha of Shchutei Chutz. Right, that all the korbanos had to be done in Makam Mikdash. All the halachas that are Mikdash oriented, Mikdash centric, that all revolves around are all in our parsha. But Kiyach Hashem is Gvulcha, Kasher Diberlach, Basar, Kitab and Nafshcha Lechol Basar. In our parsha came the heter to eat Basar Tava. So it copies over the whole sugya of Shchutei Chutz of Parshas Achrei Mos, but adding the heter that since you're coming to Eretz Yisrael, in Eretz Yisrael hutar basar tava. All right. So we have to recap the relationship between these two sugyas. That these two sugyas, Achrei Shmini and Achrei Mos, are joined together in Parshas Re'eh. Right. So we have to recap what we already said about the relationship of these two parshas, but also put in context that here, they're recapped, but with the heter of Basar Tava, and how this all fits the inyan of Eretz Yisrael. How these two inyanim are brought together, these two halves are brought together, but with the heter of basar tava. Right. So now, Parshas Re'eh, right, Parshas Re'eh in most years is Shabbos Mevorchim Elul. This year it worked out, Punt, Mamash, Rosh Chodesh Elul. Alright, so it's prudent to darshan on the inyan of Elul. Alright, so the Sefer Yetzirah says on the Mazel of Chodesh Elul, Himlich ois yud b'maiseh, right? V'yad small b'nefesh. Amongst the things that it says over there, it goes through all the koiches of the month. So what's shoylet in the month of Elul is the letter yud in maiseh, yud in maiseh, right? And yad small in the nefesh, and we'll explain what that means. And of course, the mazel besula bashana, that we're not really going to talk about that today.
Min b'nefesh?
Yad small. Yad small benefesh. Ois yud, yad small benefesh is in Elul.
What is it? Yad small. What's
it's yud. Ois yud b'maisa. Ois yud b'maisa. Yad small benefesh. Right. And then and mazel besula ba'olam. So now, what's pshat ois yud b'maisa? Now, there's like some taich. Ois yud b'maisa, what that means. The letter yud in maisa. So the Goin in his Pirush on the Sefer Yetzirah says it refers to psol lecha shnei luchos avanim karishonim v'chasafti ala luchos. That's the lashon of the Goin. Yud b'maisa, what maisa happened? Well, I'll tell you, because on Rosh Chodesh Elul, or in preparation for Rosh Chodesh Elul, Moshe was commanded, and then Elul went up. That's why, the Torah brings the reason. That's why we blow shofar. We shouldn't be mitbalbel the way Bnei Yisrael were mitbalbel the first time. Count the 40 days. Count the times we blow shofar, right? So the oisyud b'maisa is psol lecha shnei luchos avanim. Right? So you have to understand what the Goyin means. Psol lecha shnei luchos kasafti al luchos. Right. So, let's recap, the inyan, of Parsha Shmini and how it relates to Parshas Achrei Mos. Right. The world that the Ribbon Shalom gave us is a world of sevens. Right? Things as they are, right, are all in sevens. Let me buy the world, similar the world was created in 7 days, right? And there's 7 days to a week, and there's 7 years to a Shemitah, v'chulei, 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 right? But, the inyan of seven, right, is that, right, that everything is in its gvul. Right? The world of how should we say this? When we say that teva is seven, so everything has its own teva, right? Everything has its its program, its function, its place, right? The world of seven is kol davar b'gvula. Right? Everything as it is, everything onto its own. As it is and onto its own. That's teva, nature. That's how it's tavua, right? Yeah.
Do we see in teva this phenomenon of seven in any obvious way? We know that there's 7 days a week, and we know that there's 7 years Shemitah cycle, Yovel. But do we see in teva itself this development of seven?
We Bismanas are not, but in the science, in medieval science, they divide up everything into seven. It was It was common wisdom, as it were. Everything was even Sheva Chochmas and everything. They divided everything into sevens. In the ancient cultures.
Now, the only reason why I'm asking is because we're definitely attaching it to the concept of teva,
Yes.
which is
Right.
as we're going to talk about later on. As Rab's going to talk about later on, that has to do with re'iyah, what you can see.
Right.
So that's why I'm trying to think about if there's anything that we see in teva that comes in multiples of 7. Okay.
Right. Okay. Often I get to, but I was saying in antiquity,
Right.
all thinking people thought that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. It wasn't just a Jewish thing.
It was like something that was imprinted in the
In the consciousness.
subconscious, right, of the
The Rambam brings it in Morning Buchim also. 7-day festivals were common in antiquity.
Right.
So, Machzor HaSholim, Machzor HaTivi.
Right, the Maral calls it this Sheva's Moira and Shlema.
Yeah, it's a cycle, but it's a physical cycle. But in that cycle, you just peace, 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 and you completed a circle. But all the pieces, each one remains in its gvul, in its place.
Well, we know from the recounting of Sheva Yemei Bereshis, right, that we know that's where the HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. I was just wondering if there's any echo of that, so to speak.
I'm sure there is, but I can't tell you offhand.
Okay.
But I'll call upon him, right? But this nakuda that mitzad hateva, everything is onto its own. That's obvious, This everything, everyone just looks out for themselves, right? Every species, looks out for themselves. Right, and everything is made begvulo lefi tivai, right? Comes the human being, right? Comes the human being and starts, imprinting, right? Mitzad is chachma, technological advancement. I'm bringing technological advancement as it were a external, mushal for the pneumistic inyan, but even from the chitzonius of what's called technology, which chachmas ha'adam, right? Chachmas ha'adam. So what does the adam do be'etzem in his technology, right? He starts putting the pieces together, right? You have a field, you have an ox, right? So the Adam makes a plow, connects the plow, to the ox, to the field, and that's, voila, agriculture. It's like connecting the pieces in all different types of tzirufim, right? Right, and that's, that's what everything the Adam does. Right, the main imprint of the Chachmas Ha'adam upon the Bria is to be, the Adam doesn't do anything yesh ma'ayin, right? But he pulls the pieces together in creative ways, that, and that's mitzad that hitkalalut, of making things one cloud, that he improves the world. When indeed that is exactly what he did, right? Right. It's whatever, it's the gadgets they put together, it's all in, circuitry, it's all in of hit kalalut, right? So now, Ba'amkus, right? Ba'amkus, right? Ba'amkus, right? This is what, the Adam's meant to do in Ruchnius, as it were. How he does it technologically is a fringe benefit, right? A fringe benefit that would have never been necessary if not for Chet Adam Rishon. That's what the Gemara says on Avodah Zarah. If we would have had 2 snakes that do all our needs, right? Right. Because technology is be'etzem, a countermeasure for arura ha'adama ba'avurecha. You made life difficult, so we have to make gadgets to make life easier for ourselves because we made it difficult. And it's a noach zeyinachamenu. You hichin leim klei macharesha. You made the plow, right? So the technology is, as a word, the chitzonius of how man improves the world, which is really it's the chitzonis and not the ikar, right? Because it wasn't meant to be. If not for Chet Adam Rishon, life would have been simple, and if life would be simple, we wouldn't have to make these gadgets. These gadgets, the driving force for them is to make life easier. If life would be easy, we wouldn't be inventing these things, right? So, they say necessity is the mother of invention, right? But the ikar avoda of the Adam, right? Which was always meant to be, was indeed to make this hit kalalut, right? Right, to make this hit kalalut, but in ruchnius, take these things out of their gevul, that they should interface with each other, right? And that will bring a higher form, of shleimus to the world, because by taking things and combining them, so each thing is mashlim the chisaron of the other thing. They're mashlim for each other. When you bring them together, you're supposed to bring them together in creative patterns, and that was the avod of Adam Rishon Ruchnius, right? Right.
When the Rav says things, does he mean davke chafatzim, or can we say something more mukshat, something more abstract?
See that. So I'm trying to get to Adam Rishon. His whole avoda was to eat. He had to eat from the all the eight gone ochel tochal meitzav lo sochal, right? He had to they were all there, right? They were all there that to connect to the Adam, and through the Adam they would connect to each other. Just keep the Ra out of it. The hit kalalut is only meant to be from the koiches of Toiv, right? And the koiches of Ra keep out. Perhaps Adam Rishon, he messed up and he brought the koiches of Ra in, right? But Adam Rishon's ikar avoda was to eat, right? To eat and to be served. Right, even though he was a vegetarian, he didn't eat animals, right? But they were supposed to work for him, and the Adam would do the hitkal, that everything would be nichlal in the Adam, and through being nichlal in the Adam, right? Through being nichlal in the Adam, that's how the kochos of the bria would be nichlal in each other, in a pattern that's called tselem elokim, and that would have been the tikkun of the bria. And that's what the Adam does with his chokhmah. Now in the shir on Shabbos, we pointed out like this.
That's how the whole bria. When we talk about being mashlim the bria, right? And meanwhile the tzelem is the ikar. You're saying al yedei that the bria would be working for the tzelem.
That's right, and the tzelem would be, as it were, the glue, the pattern. The pattern is the better word. The pattern. That everything will fit together lefi this pattern of the tzelem. So there's be nichlal in the tzelem, and tzelem will draw the koiches together in this pattern that causes hashlama. And this is the koch of chokhmah, the chokhmah of the Adam. All right. So now there's a davar nifla to be mizbonin. The koch, a maisa of the Adam versus a maisa of the behema. That in pure physical force, right? In pure physical force, the behema is bigger than the Adam. The behema is strong. You have to remember, until about 200-300 years ago, we harnessed the power of animals to do whatever we did, right? The ikar avoid of the Adam is, the ikar of his maisim is the machshav in his maisim. The brute force of the maisa of the behema is bigger as far as the brute force. But a maisa of the behema is not mitzaref to anything. What the maisa of the behema is mitzaref to something, that's a pula of the Adam. So let's bring an example from Hilchos Shabbos. right? You're chayav for chayrish. How are you chayrish? Right? You don't have to do it with your hands, dafka. If you hook it up to the behema, you give a kick to the behema, you're chayav, skila. Because that's the derech of charisha. So the maisa of the adam is the chokhmah, and that's the Indian of meleches machsheves asra Torah. The Torah asra the maisa mitzad the machshava that goes into it. That's the ikar maisa of the adam. So it's the machshava that of how you connected the ox to the plow to the land, and that's what you're chayav on. The ikar maisa of the adam is the machshava, right? It's not the brute force, right? It's not the behemoths are. But the behemoths have the koach of brute force, but there's no tziruf in their maisa. Every behemoth does a maisa, that maisa stays in the same gvul as the behemoth itself. It's the adam that makes these crossovers, and it's the maisa adam, mleches machshavas, and mlech of machshava, asra Torah. But that machshava is the koach hatziruf. That chochma is the koach hatziruf, right? So now the shirish of it. The shorish of it, of the koach hatziruf that there is in maisim, right? And that means, let's put in this word, as a word, a glue that causes the adam's maisim to add up, stick together and add up. The glue is the chachma. The chachma that's in the maisa, right, is what causes the maisa to be mitzdaref. It's the machshava that makes the maisa a mleches machshavas. Mleches machshavas means, it's mitzdaref to something. There's some type of gain. There's some type of utility.
It seems to be two different things, though. The idea of the etzem tziruf as opposed to the purpose of the tziruf. I would have said that it's the productivity aspect of it. That's the mleches machshavas. The whole idea is that it's productive. And they translate as creative, but it has a lot to do with being productive. The tziruf seems to me just to be a means to the end of the productivity. That's the way that it does it, but...
No, but we're saying the same thing. Because productivity means that the maisa was mitzdaref to something. Something came out of it. It's not the maisa in a vacuum. There was a product. Right? So that koach is called the chachma in the maisa. That's a word. The glue in the maisei ha'adam that causes maisim to add up to something or to combine with each other. The glue is the chachma. The behemoth doesn't have chachma, so every maisa of the behemoth just remains, in the same gvul as the behemoth. The maisim of the adam are mitzdaref, because the Maisadim are done with Chachma. And it's beside Kulam B'Chachma Asisa. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu already ingrained in the Bria that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Kulam B'Chachma Asisa. There's the Koach of Chachma in the Maisa. Koach of Chachma in the Maisa. Kulam B'Chachma Asisa. And the Adam who's B'Tzam Elokim does me'ain that. The Koach of Chachma in the Maisa. Now, Chachma mamish as opposed to bina, as we're going to explain. Right? The bechina of chachma, right? The bechina of chachma, right? Chachma sa'adam, right? Right. The chachma in the maisa is what causes the maisa to be the type of maisa that doesn't remain in its physical gvul. It's It produces something. It adds up to another maisa, which adds another maisa, and there's and it makes a tzura. Right, and that's besode already. Rebbe Shem set up that this is kulam b'chachma sisa, that you could understand. It means that I did a koach of chachma, that all the asiyas become begeder klal. Kulam, it all becomes kulam, becomes a sum total. Right, mikoach, the chachma that there is in the asiyah. Of course, the way it started was cool. That from chachma came all the asiyas of the Rebbe Shem. Right, so chachma is a klal that was mitparet to all the asiyas, and the adam, does it, in reverse, because there's chachma in his maisim. So that's why his maisim could add up, right? And the behemoth doesn't have chachma in its maisim, so that's why the maisim behemoth don't add up. Right. So this bechina is called.
Saying that Hashem made the bria in a oifen that they could be mitzvah to each other.
That's right.
That's
The
what
chachma.
Chachma says.
Kulam b'chachma. See, and the other who has chachma
Otherwise, Chachma
could now do that. Could make the bria b'bechin all the asiyas b'bechinas kulam. That not every ma'isa would stay separate. The ma'isa would.
He could, right. He could
Right.
use that.
All right, and now, all right, that mikoach the chachma there is the hit kalalut, right? The hit kalalut hamaisim. Now, I mean, you have to understand the godless of this, because physically every maisa is separate. Physically, every maisa is separate. It's the maisa is a physical thing. So and gashmis, every davar is a separate thing, and it's in the pure olamas of machshava is a klal. Maisim are seemingly disparate pratim, but mitzad the chachma that there is in the maisa, that's what causes the koch that the maisa could be a maisa that's mitzaref, either mitzaref onto another maisa or directly be mitzaref to a certain toelis, a certain end goal. Right? That's the koch of chachma in the maisa that makes the hit kalulut. Okay, and that's what we call the eighth bechina, right? So now Parshas Shmini, right? That the Medrash brings the pasuk Chachma Bansa Beisa Chatzva Amudei Shiva. Wisdom built the house of which has 7 pillars. That refers to Bria Sa'olam. And also refers to, right, that before these Medrash right there in Parshas Shmini, that pasuk also refers to that this the eighth, that the shorish is chachma, and then there's shivas yemei miluim, and then there's vayi bayom hashmini. But shmini is actually to go back to the shorish. From chachma came chatzva amudei shiva. 7 pillars branched out of chachma, right? So that's the shorish. But then when you wanted the Gemara Maisa to bring it back to that hit kalalut, and that's the bechina of the 8th, and that's vayi bayom hashmini. So now, like this, it says, in the Gemara in Shabbos, Gemara Darshans, V'haya emuna sitecha, Chosros Chachma Vadas on the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Chachma zeh Seder Kachim. Seder Kachim is called Chachma. Right? Right? Because the inyan of Kachim, right? The inyan of Kachim is mamish this inyan. I mean, it's the inyan of all mitzvahs bechlal, but Kachim befrat. All mitzvahs bechlal are coming to make these types of sirufim that we're talking about, these type of hitkalalut. All mitzvahs are betzim mechuvin towards this, but kochim befrat is this inyan of making the hitkalalut, that the tzelem of the mikdash is also, the Rishonim say, and the Zohar says, and the Rishonim bring it, that the mikdash also looked like an adam. The Aron was like had the luchos which looks like a heart, and the kruvim on top of the Aron like the lungs, and it's in the Malbim, and it's in the Kuzri, and it's in a Rambam and the Igeris they wrote to his son, and where is it not? That the Mishkan is, as it were, a big tzelem, and the avoda of the mikdash, is the hit kalalut, that all the keiches come into this tzelem, and that's what you do with a carbon. It's a behema, it's chulin, and you elevate it. You make it kodesh, and you make it even more. You make it your makrivit bepol, and that causes a hit kalut of all the madregas, from the profane to the holy, and from the holy to even holier when you're makrivit bepol. I mean, that's what's brought down. It's in the Zohar. Nefesh Chaim was marchiv on it a lot. Right, that's the avodah of the korbanos, was to cause this hit kalut of that the lower madregas should be mitkalel with the higher madregas, and now they're, so now the elyon will be mashlim the tachton, since they were nichlal zeh bazeh.
You have mentioned the process of domain someach high.
Right. So the animal eats the domain, and the right. And then I want to say that's why the tzomeach takes from the doimim, and then the animal takes the tzomeach, and after that either the adam or the mizbech takes the chai, right? Right? But now we can understand. Parsha Shmini is the Parsha of Hitkalulut. Parsha Shmini is the Parsha of Hitkalulut. The 8th Madrega is now, the 8th Madrega is Keneged Chochma, Keneged the special imprint that the human being puts on the world, right? It's Keneged, things being Nichlal Zeh B'Zeh,
So
right?
What does the Beis Hamikdash Mechuvan to Adam have to do with this?
No, in the Beis Hamikdash the Hitkalulut is done because the Beis Hamikdash is a macro tzelem.
Right. So it's
So that's why that it can only happen through a mikdash. That because it's in this pattern that all the kaichas have to find each other. It's in this pattern. This is the place. It's only mitzad this pattern that things can be nichla. It's in this pattern that they can come together. That's be through this pattern, makbil to parallel to the tzelem of the adam. So that's what the Gemara says. Or vice versa, like the Mesilas Yesharim says in the Parak on Kedusha, if a person is zocher to be a Kaddish, so his etzem achilas basar is like a carbon, and his shtiyas yain is like nesachim, which is what would have been if not for the cheda ego, right? The cheda ego, then the etzem tzalm of the adam could be a walking mikdash, and a person who's zocher to the madreg of Kedusha is mamish that his etzem, kol vidron tamchal kili krid bikurim. Like I said, Mishram, we just quote, his etzem eating of meat is like a carbon. His etzem drink of wine is like a nesachim. All right? And Taka eating l'shem shemayim, the Gemara says, Shulchan Hashanah mechaper alav. And that was the whole avodah of Adam Arishan. He had to eat and be served, and by mitzad, everything would be nichlal in him. And he serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that causes, the curve of all the koiches to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through his tzelem, and that's tikkun ha'olam. Because he tainted his tzelem by infinite tzras, now it has to be done through a mikdash. And the avodah of karbonos. Right? So now you understand, Parsha Shmini, what's the other half of Parsha Shmini? Kashrus, eating. Right? Because Parsha Shmini is all about hitkalulut. Right? And that's what happens when you eat. When you eat, so the thing that you eat is nichlal in your tzelem. Right? And with this achila, you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so it was like a carbon, this achila. Right? Right? Without getting into into depth, Tazriya Mitzar that's in the middle is connected the etzem tzelem ha'adam. Right? So it's hitkalut and tzelem. But then there's Parshas Achrimos, and that's the warning. That's the warning. You can't do it however you want. Right, that's the warning. That's the make it kalalut, and that's what the tzelem of the Adam is all about. Right, but you can't do whatever you want, and that was not of Avihu's mistake. They want to do this avodah of hit kalalut, right? Right. In the end, they, in a certain way, were matzliach, but not in the way they thought they would be, because they themselves were nichlal in the shechina. They were consumed. They themselves were a carbon. But it was, but they did the avodah of K'taris. K'taris in Aramis means kesher. They wanted to make the kalut. They went lifnai v'lifnim with the K'taris, but it wasn't authorized. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu warns, listen, the hit kalut, there are rules to how it's done. Right? There are rules to how this happens. Right? Can't do it freestyle. And connected that is shchutei chutz, that in that door, you couldn't eat steak stam kacha. So even though it was mamash, a holy door deya, you want to eat steak, you have to bring it as a shlomim. Right? You can't do this yourself. Right? And it ends with arayas, and we explained this. Right? Because arayas, the Maral explains, is that the world is set up in a certain way. To get married is also hitkalut. V'hayu lebasar echad. Right? That's the whole thing. We talk about shleimus. You're only half you're a plag gufa, says the Zohar. You're only half a body when you're single, right? Shleimus. Zohar says it must be true, right? Right? Right. So we only got our shleimus.
There's going to be a remark about that somewhere.
Yeah,
I couldn't just let it go.
We have to take it on faith. Right? They say Shalei below Torah, below bracha, below. So we're going to have to just believe it. If it says it, it says it. Right? It's a worry above us also.
We've got three recorders, I think, going on here. The router's in big trouble.
Right.
Al pi shnayim, al pi shlosh.
Right. Right. So, yeah. So wait. There's a certain pattern in the bria, and that's the Rambam says that's why Seida Arais. It was like an area of Sisrei Torah that ain't Dorshim Barais, like Bishnayim, right? Is that Sisrei Torah because Arais is mechuven connected how the koiches are set up. It's a maze, You can't just go and take and be nichla and whatever. The bria is set up in a very complicated way, and that's why the zivugim are dafka him and her, and not what you would have thought is like more the most direct, like your half sister or whatever, or someone who's in the family. It's the bria is set up as a maze. So Parshas Achrei Mos, right, is really is the Sur Meirah, right? The Parsha Shmini is the Asay Tov, right? Just it came, the latter came after the former, after none of you made it their mistakes. So in Parshas Achrei Mos goes back and say the Kalut, there are rules to how it could be done, right? It just can't be done the way, right? But here is the catch, the Dor HaMidbar, right? Getting back to why. For them, it wasn't hutar basar tava. Right? They had to eat it as shlum. Right? Their right? Right? By them, the ikra was machshava and not maisa. Now, I'll explain what that means. Right? Right? The Dor HaMidbar didn't really live in the Olam HaMaisa. They lived in the desert, right? First of all, you can't, it's not physically possible to live in the desert. It was all derech nes, right? But in the desert is a desert because you can't plant there, you can't grow there, you can't work there. It's not a place to do. That's why it's barren. That's why it's empty. That's why it's desolate, right? Right? Doing Maisa was not their thing, right? Right, they didn't have to work for a living, right? They were just busy learning, because they had the money, they had their parnasim and hashamayim, literally, in the most literal way, right? And they're undoing their laundry, right? So, so their ikar thing was not maisa. We find that the Torah says mafurish. Chazal tells us, but it's mafurish in the Torah. Ki savol arts. Many mitzvahs did not go in. Mitzvahs ma'asiyot did not go into effect. Did not go into effect until Klal Yisrael came into Eretz Yisrael. Avodah b'maisa is the inyan of Eretz Yisrael, as opposed to the Dor HaMidbar. Their ikra inyan was machshava. So it's a davar nifla mode. The Sfarim point out, machshava doesn't take up space. Expanse, rachvus, is a physical thing, right? So the gvulim of Dor HaMidbar were very betzimtzum. That there's no basar tava in your house. You want to eat steak, you got to go to the Beis Hamikdash, you got to go to the Mishkan, right? They didn't have rachvos. They didn't have what's said in this week's parsha of Ki Yarchiv Hashem es Gvulcha, right? We have space. Space is a physical thing. They didn't have space. It wasn't their thing. They were the Dor Deya. Their ikra avodah was b'machshava. Machshava doesn't take up space. The end of being, you need space for Maisa. A Maisa happens within time and space. Right? It wasn't the Dor HaMidbar's thing. So the Torah didn't give them, their own space, as we call it. Give me my space, right? They didn't have that. But, Eretz Yisrael had that. That's the end of coming into Eretz Yisrael, right? So now,
to me, it sounds like a space is a sort of tzimtzum, really. It's a sort of richot, the whole.
Yeah, it's a space. It's to go into the world of Maisa. It's to go into the world of Maisa. It's to go into the world of Maisa. right? Right. So they were as it were, more in the oilam of machshava, right? So as a function of that, they didn't have personal space, and then a physical space. So basar tava, so hein mitzad, I eat it because I feel like it, and hein mitzad, that I eat it in my own house. It's, you're having your own space, right? Having your own space. The Dor HaMidbar did not have their own space, right?
It's a relative concept. I mean,
obviously it's relative.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's
I'm
not
saying,
absolute.
they were very misudar in their space, and everybody knew what their makom was.
Right.
But like the Rav said, it's as opposed
Lack
to
of
Yarki
personal
Bulcha.
Right.
Right. In that sense.
They didn't have harachavas kvucha. They didn't have personal space, right? Because their avodah wasn't b'maisa. You need personal space for the sake of doing more. Right? Doing wasn't their thing. Right? Now, so getting back to this, one of the differences between Maisa and Machshava, right, is that Maisa is measured by Re'iyah. Machshava is invisible. Right. Right. A Maisa, Eidos is neufel on a Maisa. Whether a Maisa was done, it's not. Maisa is nitfas b're'iyah, and seeing is believing, but seeing is believing only by something ma'asi. Ideas are not nitfas b're'iyah.
The Rav is going to put into perspective where Shmiya is going to fit in this.
Yes. So, yes. So, the. Okay. So, coming to Eretz Yisrael is for the sake of being marchiv, harchavas hamaisa, right? That's and that's very necessary for tikkun abriya. The Dor Midbar cannot mitaken be the bria, because they weren't involved with the bria. They have to go. They can't be mitaken the olam hamaisa because they weren't there. Right? That's the end of going into Eretz Yisrael. There's we spoke out. There's a Chasam Sofer that says that the machlokes between Shim Bar Yochai and Rabbi Shmuel, whether you should only learn or hinag ben minag derech eretz. So there's a Chasam Sofer, it's not in all the editions. A Chasam Sofer that says their machlokas was dafka in Eretz Yisrael. But in Chutz La'aretz, Rabbi Shmuel's made it of Shim Bar Yochai, you should just learn. Because in Eretz Yisrael, the etzem maisa of being oisik in parnasa and thus is is kadosh, right? Right, it has because it's binyan Eretz Yisrael, it's Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Right, so therefore, it's mutter nag ben minig derech eretz. In Chutz La'aretz, where there's no mitzvah to build up Chutz La'aretz, right? So Adrabah, the halacha is like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Over there, Rav Shmuel would be moeded to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. You should only learn, because the aim of Eretz Yisrael is to come into the olam hamaisa, right? And to and to be mitaken by the fact that we have to, and we're granted our personal space because being in the olam hamaisa and doing it l'shem shamayim, you're mitaken the olam hamaisa, and that's the end of coming into Eretz Yisrael. It's to be mitaken the dimensions that are visible, right? Right. So now, and that wasn't the avodah of the Dor Midbar. Dor Midbar was their ikra avodah was b'machshava. They were learning.
Could be they couldn't have been b'maisa chutz from Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but it's hainu. Lefi their madrega was machshava, and that's why they were off earth, right? The Dor Bar is to go into Maisa, which is mitaken the physical dimensions of the universe, and the physical dimensions of the universe are the visible dimensions of the universe. The physical is what's visible. The pure idea is invisible. Now look, I want to illustrate that when we say that ideas are invisible, but the chachma in the Maisa is visible, and the Ramchal talks about this that in the Das Tvunas that obviously the machshava could be much bigger than the Maisa, right? And I've like a million one cheshbonos why I'm going to make this shtender, right? So the million one cheshbonos you can't know from the shtender, but the basic chachma that this is a shtender that you could see. There's a certain amount of chachma in the Maisa. There's a certain amount of chachma in the Maisa. So let's say the machshavas, like all my ulterior motives, so that's not mishtakef through the Maisa, but there's a certain amount of chachma that is mishtakef from the Maisa, right? Anyone who sees this knows what it's for, just to put books on, it's a certain amount of chachma that's mitgaleh al yedei the Maisa. And that's the bechina of Chachma Sheba Maisa that we're talking about, which is the Maila of the Maaseh Adam, right? The Chachma Sheba Maisa, as opposed to the pure Chachma that's invisible, the pure idea. And that was the avodah of the Dor HaMidbar, the pure idea, right? The avodah of Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael is the Chachma Sheba Maisa, right? The Chachma Sheba Maisa. Right, and that's right. Two things in Eretz Yisrael, right, which we're going to talk about. There's the mitzvah satzlius parts, and there's also the kochim, dafka in Eretz Yisrael. Right, we're going to talk about that in a second. Why these two areas are connected the chachma sheba maisa. Right, so actually kochim we spoke about, right, because it's the hit kalalut, which is mikoach chachma. Right, but before we get to the other mitzvah satzlius ba'aretz, right. So, I want to put this all in the context of the Luchas Rishonos and the Luchas Shnius. And that's how we'll get back to Elul also. Right? Luchas Rishonos, Valuchas Maisel, Kima, Vamichtav, Miklu, Charos, Valuchas, both the tablets and the writing on the tablets were from Shemaim, and they were both called Elukus. Right? Luchas Maisel, Kim, Valuchas, right? Valuchas, Michtav, Kim, Charos, Valuchas. The Rebbe Shem made the tablets, and he did the writing, right? Right, as opposed to Luchas Shnius, right? Luchas Shnius, the tablets are from earth, and then the Rebbe Shem wrote, v'chasavti psolacha, v'chasavti Luchas Eis Hadvarim Asher Hayu Luchas Rishonim Asher Shibarta. So everyone knows it because and we spoke about it, but it's very Yeduim that the madreg of Luchas Rishonos, that even the Even, the Luchas were Maisa Elokim, right? So that bechina was connected how the lave of the Adam was purely tahor, the Luchas which look like a heart, Masvei Maluchas Libecha, right? The guf was tahor. All the asiyas of the Adam were like Maisa Elokim, right? But that darga, of like, that the Maisa was also Elokus, not just the machshava was Elokus, but even the Maisa Adam were holy. So in that madrega, it's called that the Maisa and the machshava are nichlalim zebazeh. Right? The Maisa and the Machshava are nichlalim zebazeh. They're not two separate entities. Imagine a matzav like that. The Maisa and the Machshava are all one, not two separate things. We're rogil. There's Maisa and Machshava, right? In the madreg of Luchas Rishonos is Maisa and Machshava are all one. All right, Luchas Rishonos, right? Luchas Rishonos come after were a direct result of Matan Torah. Right, the day after Matan Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to get the Luchas Rishonos. Right? By the way, the Onan and the Eish were on the Har all those 40 days and 40 nights Moshe Rabbeinu was in Shemayim. It was like all a hemshech of Matan Torah. So by Matan Torah, what does it say? So first it says the Klaisel said Naaseh v'nishma. They were Magdim Naaseh Nishma. They put the Maisa, which is Re'iyah, right? We said Maisa is, Maisa, right? Maisa is visible. And then, but B'derech Klal, you have to first get instructions before you do. But it being Magdim Naaseh v'nishma illustrates that the Maisa and the Machshava thoughts, you share by speaking, and I hear them. That's the Nishma. That's thoughts, right? So being able to be Magdim Nasa Nishma says that they were basically on the same level. The Maisa and Machshava were Nichlal Zeh B'Zeh, and therefore the next day, that was Erev Shavuos. The next day by Matan Torah V'cholam Roim Esakolos, they could see sound. Sight B'derech Klal is Neufel on Maisa. You see Maisa. Right, and sound is machshava, but they could see sound. That, and we spoke about this in our shir in Parshas Yisroi, right? That the madrega of luchas rishonos is that maisa and machshava are nichlal zeh b'zeh, right? And therefore you had connected that sensory crossover, that re'iyah that goes on maisim and shmir, which goes on ideas. Roim esakos, they could see sounds. Right? V'shamu esanira. There's a lashon chazal. Also fakir. They could hear sight. Right? That this sensory crossover is connected. Right? How Maisa and Machshava, Riyah, which is connected Maisa, right? And Shmir, which are now Nichlal Zeh Bazeh. Right? They're Nichlalim Zeh Bazeh. Right? So it's still true that the Dora Midbar, their avodah was machshava, but the Madrei of Luchas Rishonos, the Maisa was nichlal in the machshava. They were kalul zeh bazeh, right? If they would have stayed on that level, there would probably been very little to actually do. Because the Bria would have been very high state of tikkun, wouldn't be too much need for mitzvahs b'maisa because of the high level of tikkun that there was. But at that level of tikkun, the maisa and the machshor were nechlolim zeh b'zeh. Yafeh. Okay. So now the Medrash in Parshas Yisrael says,
I think the turf of Avodah was b'chlal as Gashmi. The whole
it was all nichlal machshava. That's what it means. The luchas and the michtav were both maisa elokim, and that's connected naaseh v'nishma. That you see that. The Maisa wasn't after the Shmiya. The Maisa could be even as it were, simultaneously. That's what it means being Magdim Natzadishma. And connected that was Roim Esakolos, because Riyah, which goes on Maisa, you could actually see sound and hear sight. That was the Hitkalut of Maisa in Machshava. So now the Cheta Ego, it says in Parshas Yisroi, right? That Cheta Ego, HaKadosh says the Klaisel, Shavartem Naaseh Hizharu B'Nishma. Shavartem Naaseh Yizharu B'Nishma. Right, that's called that the Echet Ego made Shavartem Naaseh. Right, the Asiya got broken, and the Rebbe Shem says Yizharu B'Nishma. You said Naaseh Nishma, Shavartem Naaseh Yizharu B'Nishma, and that's connected how the Luchas broke, but the Oisius were Parchos Ba'avir. The Koach of Maisa, which is that's what broke. Shavartem Naaseh Yizharu B'Nishma. Right, and lefi that mahalach, right, the asiya is no longer kodesh. The asiya is no longer, or in our words that we've said, the asiya is no longer automatically nichlal in the machshava. The asiya lags very, very far behind, and our ikar kesher the Torah is in machshava. Yizaru benishma. Our ikar kesher the Torah is mitzad machshava, because Torah is very high and holy, and our connection to the high and holy is in machshava. You try to get the body, try to follow, try to drag it along, But Shavartim Nasa, the Asiya is not Kodesh anymore.
I don't understand. The Rav is saying now we're more attuned to Machshava. I thought the whole Mahalach of
No, we're not. But now we explain the problem. So now I want to explain the problem, but then we have to understand the tikkun of Luchas Shnius.
Oh, okay. One second.
We always
so there's...
the problem is Shavartem Nasa. We didn't get to Luchas Shnius yet. Shavartem Nasa Hizaru Benishma. But we didn't get to, as it were, how we're trying to fix the problem with Luchas Shnius, which has its parallel to coming to Eretz Yisrael. Right.
You're saying that
Right.
the not avoid in Maisa of the Dara Midbar wasn't because they couldn't do it. It was because they didn't need to do it.
Well, they didn't need to
Wasn't
do
a
it. It wasn't meant to do. It wasn't meant for them. It wasn't meant to be because even when they were in their high state, so the Maisa was nichla on the machshava. Now when they were in their low state, the Maisa is corrupt. And I want to. So I just want to talk about his haru ben nishma. So now, the nishma, right, in Lashon HaKodesh means obedience, right? Doesn't just mean stam to hear. It also means to obey, right? Mashmat, im tishma tishma, right? It's all throughout Tanakh. In Lashon HaKodesh it also means obedience, right? And this is davar nifal lisbonen. When you obey, right? So you're being, mevatel your rotzen, right, to the rotzen of whoever's commanding you. So the shmiya is just be makabel upon yourself, right? The rotzen of whoever's commanding you. So now, in that relationship, there's you, and then there's the law that you're subservient to, and the law is around you, confining you. That's what nishma is. It's confinement. I want to do whatever I want to do, right? Right? Okay, so I'm shomea, and that means okay, so I let you control me. So it means that you're, makif around me, cramping my style. That's what nishma is, and that fits what I was saying. He's how really shavartem nase, right? Because be'etzem legabedi etzem asiyah, I would much rather, be doing, whatever I want to do, right? The nishma is that we're confining me. The law confines me, right? That I can't do what I want to do. That's what nishma is, right? When we're on the madrega of nasa, also means that I want to do what the Rebbe Shem wants to do. It wasn't two things. Nishma is like it's your ideas, not mine, right? So I'm listening to you, and then I'm forcing myself to do lefi what you want, right?
That's Rabbi Yossi and Yerushalmi about they want to eat. They want to eat certain things. Ma say efshar. What's the lashon? The lashon that he wanted. He would have liked to have a certain food that was asa to him.
Right.
So he didn't say that it was bad for him. He didn't say that it was. He just said the Torah said it's asa.
Gozrani. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And then that's the nishma relationship. That's why nishma is obedience. That's what obedience is. You are imposing. I may be, I may be willing, but you're imposing your daya upon me, right? But the Rebbe Shem doesn't want that only. He wants asay ritzoncha kiritzono, asay daika, that you should do, and all the doings that come from your own rotzen should be kiritzono. That there should be the asiya also should be, as it were, in this relationship of nishma, the law is around you, not inside of you. The law is around you, cramping your style, being magbil you, right? Right? It's not inside of you. It doesn't permeate your asiyas. It's imposing upon you. It's imposing upon you. Right? Now, seemingly, that was the case in Luchas Shnius. Seemingly, but not really. Seemingly, so the stone is earthly stone, and the Torah is superimposed upon the stone, right? That seemingly it's hizaru benishma. Because the divrei Elokim, which you hear, b'shmiya, is kasafti aluchas eis hadvarim. But that's not true. That's as a word the disadvantage that the luchas shnias start from, but they're coming to correct the problem. Correct the problem. Because sof it's v'kasafti alechem, ksiva zamaisa. Ksiva makes the oisius physically visible. It's nifla moed. That the function of why Rebbe gave another set of luchas. So I just say, Stam, have Torah without luchas. Because Rebbe with the second set of luchas wants to try to remedy the problem. And restore the Kedusha Samaisa. Right? Which is what the stone represents. But it's just you're at a big disadvantage. The stones come from earth. Right? Right. Right. So, right. So, the pe'ula that Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded, psolacha shnei luchai savanim, the Indian of psolacha, right, that zok the goin, that's himlich ois yud b'maisa, right, psolacha v'kasafti al luchas, is what, that's all the goin says, so, we may be reading a lot into the goin, but it seems to me that the pe'ula that Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to, of carving the luchas, was to condition the koach of asiya, the physical koach, right? The koach of asiya, to condition it to be able to be makabel, the Torah inside. Not that the Torah should be makif around you, curtailing your activities, right? That's not the pshat, right? But rather that the Torah should be mamish inside, inside the asiya, the chasafti al luchas, right, and ksiva is a maisa, right? Ksiva makes the oisius physically visible, like maisa, right? But the avoda of Moshe Rabbeinu, psolacha, and therefore v'chasafti aluchas, shad is to condition the koach gashmi, which is now lagging far behind, to be able to be makabel Torah, that there should be Torah not around you, stopping you from doing what you want to do, superimposed by it, but in you. And the pool of psolacha, right? Right. The pu'ula.
What's special about the psalacha there?
No, it's a pu'ula of psalacha that Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to do, was to do a tikkun to the earthly koiches, to be machshir them, because now they're lagging far behind, because shavartem nase, to do a pu'ula that it should be able for divrei Torah to go inside of it. Because without that pu'ula of psalacha, right, or without the metzias of second luchas, then his haru benishma would have been, the pshat, the Torah would have always been on the outside, not on the inside. Like obedience. Obedience, there's me, there's the law that's outside me, and I listen to the law. But it wouldn't be within the Maisa. Right? So,
some people just kept with that.
What?
Some people just...
I don't know, but that wasn't the purpose of second luchas. The purpose of second luchas. And the second luchas, and that process continues with the coming into Eretz Yisrael of there should be Kedusha in the Maisa. Not that that the religion, as it were, is forces you, pushes you in this direction, and stops you in that direction. But it should be, there should be the koch of chachma in the Maisa, right? Chachma satira in the Maisa, right? So a special pu'ul. So now it's very good. Himlich ois yud b'machshav, himlich ois yud b'maisa. So yud is machshava. Rashi says in Parshas B'Shalach. Hayud al shema machshava. Oz Yashir is Allah belibo sheyashir. Hayud al shema machshava, says Rashi over there. You saw yud, the letter yud is connected to machshava. Ois yud b'maisa refers to the koch of machshava that's in maisa, right? And kaidua in the oisius of the Shema Kodesh, yud is chachma, hey is bina, right? Because there's a koch of chachma in the maisa, which is hitkalalut, and that's the difference between chachma and bina. Right? There are many differences between Chachma and Bina. But in Chachma, everything is still one. Right? In Bina, it starts, the pratim start start separating from each other. There's the hitgaluta
That's
pratim.
a part of that midah. Rob explained before that Chochmah starts as a unity,
Right.
inside HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then
As it were, and
fragments
Bina,
out, and then we bring it back together.
right, and
Bina-
part of and it fragments out already in Bina as part of that process, even though it's not bepoyo, but as it were, it goes from klal to prat, even though it's still in machshava, but it goes from klal to prat in the Bina, but it's still machshava, but it's pratim.
filtered through Bina.
Yes. Yeah. And we neglect to say, and that's why the Svar Makdoshim say, right, whatever, it says that Re'iyah is Chachma, right, and Shmiya is Bina, right? So, another day, we said this in the Shir on Shabbos, right? In Shmiya, Trei Koli Lo Mishtamoy, you can only hear one syllable at a time. When we say Shomer Zocha b'Dibra Chanemrus, Chazal say Masha'ena Peyachol Dabar, Masha'ena Oizen Yochol Lishma. It's not physically possible to hear Shomer Zocha b'Dibra. It was all b'derech nes, right? Because in Shmiya you have to hear each syllable separately. Because Shmiya, which is Keneged Bina, which is Havana, and that's why a person who's Cherish doesn't have Havana, right? So the Shmiya is already getting into pratim, right? The klal, Re'iyah, you could see two things at once. I'm looking at both of you simultaneously. Re'iyah is Re'iyah is Chachma, which is a klal, right? So b'shorsh it's a klal, and there's the Re'iyah b'shorsha. This is what we explained in Shir. We explained this a few times. The Re'iyah b'shorsha is Chachma, and it's a klal. It's even hecher from Bina. But since Re'iyah is neifel even on the Gashmi things, right? You see physical, that's what's visible, right? Which means that the Re'iyah is mitpashet from its shorish downwards to even look at mundane things. Hamashpili liros b'shamayim v'aretz, Rosh mashpil to look. So that's what it means, in Kisvei Ari, and this is very much what we're saying, that the Shvira Sakem was in the Oiris Ha'einayim. So even though there's a lot of rayas from Zayar that Riyah is even hecher than Shmiya, and so way Chachma is hecher than Bina, that's mitzad the shorsh. But mitzad how the Riyah is mitpashet, the aspect that was mitpashet lamata, to be mashgiach, even on Dvarim Shvelim, to look at the lowly maisim, that's what broke. And that's shavartim nasa. It all fits together. The Yerushalayim broke, and the shavartim nasa. The aspect of Re'iyah that goes down to look at the maisim, that low aspect, the hispashtus that went low is what broke, not the davar b'shorsho. But of course, we want to bring it back to shorsh. We want to bring it back to the shorish of Re'iyah, right? We want to bring it back to the hitkalulut of chachma, and that's through the koch of the chachma and the maisa, and that's what's done in Eretz Yisrael. That's to do Maisa, but the Chochma Sheba Maisa, right? Right? In Eretz Yisrael is where you make this hit kalulut, right? The Chochma Sheba Maisa. So over there we're giving space to do our Maisa, but it's supposed to be the Chochma Sheba Maisa. So coming to Eretz Yisrael is a parallel, parallels. It's a hemshech of the tikkun of Luchas Shnias. Luchas Shnias was the beginning. Right, Luchas Shnias was the beginning of putting kedusha into the Maisa, right? And Eretz Yisrael is the gemar of, but in the Midbar is not their ikar thing. Wasn't Maisa. The gemar of that process is coming into Eretz Yisrael, and that's as it were getting back to the Re'iyah, because they're getting back to Roya Mesakolos in a certain way, and that's why, very interesting enough, the Eretz Yisrael is all about seeing, right? Not just that this parsha opens up with Re'eh, but it's Eretz Asher Einei Hashem Elokecha Ba, right? Everything we daven for is just to see. Ve'einenu sirena malchusecha, v'sechazena einenu b'shuvcha l'tzion b'rachamim. That the whole gula is called Re'iyah, because that's what's broken. We say that shavartem nasa, the shvira was in the einayim. What's broken about the bria is that we don't see malchus shemayim. We don't see it l'maisa. Maisa, it's not visible. It's not in the Olam HaMaisa. In the Olam HaMachshavet, Ribosh was equally the Melech HaKol Arts like he always was. But that's philosophy, right? We don't see it Lamaisa. That's what we daven. Ve'inenu sirana malchusecha v'sechazed arinu va'areinu Hashem Elokeinu b'nechma sion recha. Right? Ki ayin b'ayin yiru b'shuv Hashem tzion al sizreiyah. Because the re'iyah is when it's b'maisa, b'poyel, b'maisa. And that's the scene of the Shechina in Eretz. Liros is Pnei Adon Hashem. Right? And that's that the kedusha is in the olam hamaisa. There's the chachma in the maisa, right? The chachma that's the gala in the maisa, right? That's seen in Eretz Yisrael, and that's why it's very interesting. The Kuzri says that nevuah, which is seeing, is only in Eretz Yisrael or Leman Eretz Yisrael, right? But we also point out, interestingly enough, the Zayar and the Yerushalmi, which were written in Eretz Yisrael, as opposed to the Bavli. When the Bavli wants to bring a raya, it says Toshma. When a Yerushalmi or a Zayar wants to bring it, it says Tochazi. Come see. Right. That it should become visible. And visible means Tikkun HaMaisa, because that's the visible, dimensions of the Bria. The dimensions of Maisa are the dimensions of Re'iyah. Right? Right, so the as it were the hachana was luchas shnius, the gemara of the process, so psolacha is oisyud b'maisa. That pu'ula of was beside aseh ritzoncha kiritzono, doing an asiyah, right, to try to be oiseh rotzen, be doing an oiseh rotzen. As far as talk about this, that the meat of asiyah is keneged malchus kabbalah sol, because that's in the spheres the gemara maisa. So as Nefesh Chaim says, be makabel to do Ratzon Hashem, that in itself will be moiled within you a Ratzon. Aseh Ratzoncha. And then it's called that the Torah is not superposed by it. You yourself want to do it. It's coming from the inside. Right? And only that way there could be hitkalalut. When the Torah is on the outside, so and the Maisim Be'etzim will remain chulin, and there's not Torah in the Maisim, so the Maisim aren't going to be mitzaref l'toiva. There's not going to be Kedushas HaMaisa. It's the Kedushas HaMaisa that caused the, which connected the Chachma and the Maisa, caused the Maisa B'Mitzar. If the Torah is going to remain external and on the outside, there's not going to be Torah in the Maisa. There's not going to be the Chachma in the Maisa. So our Maisim are going to be the same as a Behemoth's Maisim. Right? The Tikkun, the Maisa is only because of the Chachma in the Maisa, the Torah in the Maisa. If the Torah only made Begetter Shmiya, that's obedience, and only Begetter Din, and not Begetter Chesed, that's only curtailing you from the outside, right? And that's the inyan and that's the inyan of Eretz Yisrael, Kedushas HaMaisa, right? So now it's very interesting that's why the other chelik of the mitzvahs of Eretz Yisrael, the other chelik of it, are chasodim, trumas, maisas, all the mataras of aniyim, and all the matnas kahuna, all the chasodim, right? Because really that's the difference between chesed and din. Right? Aside the fact that Chachma is Chesed, is from the Kava Chesed and Bina is from the Kava Din, right? But when you're just obeying, so that's Din. Right? The law is imposing upon me. I myself don't want to do it, right? I'm being forced. I'm being pushed or I'm being barred. You're pushed, I'm being barred. Chesed, I want to do. Chesed's from the inside. It's Chesed. It's not Din. It's Chesed. I want to do it.
I mean, it's done in the form of it's given over in the form of a mitzvah. It's not coming.
It is giving over his form mitzvah because the whole
That's Aseh Ratzoncha.
That's Aseh Ratzoncha. That's one of the mitzvahs our parasha says. V'lo yireh levavcha betito. You have to give it to him with a smile, right? You have to give it to him not tita even 10 times. It's not episode din yetzazayin. Yes, it has to come from the inside. Right, so the God Eretz Yisrael is connected to Kedushas HaMaisa, right? And the Kedushas HaMaisa is Kedusha, the Chachma in the Maisa, the Ois Yud B'Maisa. That's what we're working on during Elul, right? To put, to condition our hearts, psolacha, carving our hearts. The Baal Trum says a remes for Elul. We're building our hearts that in a way that the heart could be makabel divrei Torah, not around it, but in it. Arayin. there should be kedusha in the Maisa. There should be chachma in the Maisa, right? And that's the end of Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, there's kedusha samaisa. There's kedusha in going to work in Eretz Yisrael. There's everything. There's kedusha samaisa. In Chutz La'aretz, there's not kedusha samaisa. Right? That's why kachim is only in Eretz Yisrael. There's no kedusha samaisa in Chutz La'aretz. Right? The mitzvah tefillah parts in Chutz La'aretz, there are no mitzvah tefillah. There's that's the end of Eretz Yisrael is kedusha samaisa. And the kedusha samaisa is to be metakin the re'iyah and the bria, and the re'iyah is to bring everything back to the hit kalalut of kulam b'chachma sisa. Right. So now we could go back, right, and we'll go back and understand that in Eretz Yisrael you put the bracha on Har Grizim and the klala on Har Evo. That you have two visible mountains, that one represents bracha. In Eretz Yisrael, it's all visible. It's the koach of kedusha that goes into Maisa. It's the koach of kedusha that becomes visible, right? And that's why it opens up Re'eh Anochi Saviyam bracha klala, right? So first of all, Esa bracha, we can even learn that the bracha and the klala are not theoretical in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, the mitzvahs, right? How mitzvahs are bracha. Not that mitzvahs will bring you bracha, but how mitzvahs are bracha, and how averas aklala in Eretz Yisrael, right? You could mamish see that, right? In Eretz Yisrael, that's the school of Eretz Yisrael because the kedusha is nizgala in the Maisa. No, it's not that the idea is here and the Maisa is there. There's kedusha in the Maisa, right? But the idea is that ayidei kach everything is brought back to kalalut. And that's why it opens up like this. Re'eh. So that's in our souls, Re'iyah. Re'eh, Lashon Yachid. Re'eh, Anochi, Noisen Lifnechem. Right? So now, in Eretz Yisrael, you're going to be able to see, right? I mean, when you reach the sea, when you reach the epitome of the level, you'll be able to see, the hit kalalut, because seeing sees two things at once, that everything, right? Everything is, everything is kalul zebazeh, and in that matzav of hit kalulut, there is no tov versus ra. The matzav of tov versus ra is mitzad when the bria is not beat kalulut, so it divides up into a sitra de kedusha and a sitra achra, right? But when there's the hit kalulut that we speak about, right? When you see it all at once, right? You see it all at once, there's no bracha and klala. Right? You bring it back, ultimately with kedusha samaisa, so you're going to make all the birurim to be ma'achid everything, that you're only going to see good. So the Sifrei Chasidus say like this: Re'eh Anochi, right? When you have the Maila of Re'iyah, you see, it's all Lashon Yachid, everything is one, and you see everything's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kol Ma'idon Shmai L'Tav. Right? Right? And ain't davar ra yored min hashamayim. But lifnechem, in your eyes, the way you see it, lifnechem hayom bracha klala. The way you look at things, that the chalkut between bracha and klala is mitzad you. It's mitzad the bria. Mitzad the Ribono Shel Olam, where everything is nichlal, kulam b'chachma sisa, mitzad that everything is toiv. Everything is mitzdaref l'toiva. Right? The metzias of bracha and klala is by you, right? But the avoda in Eretz Yisrael, right, is now to bring it all back, to make the hit kalalut, to bring it back to that re'eh, lashon yachid, that you see there's only one reshus, that when the hit kalalut is complete, and there's only one reshus, there's just anoichi, right? There's just reshus hayachid. Reshus yechido shel olam, everything is tov. The problem is that lifnechem, in your faces, is bracha v'klala. Right. Seder. Seder.